Let's take a look at some information and charts on Serum for BraveNewCoin. So allegedly Serum is faster, cheaper, more powerful, decentralized finance. I believe that's what DeFi stands for. Built on the Solana chain. Lots of fluff and hype on Solana. Currently, figured it'd be a good time to talk about this project specifically. Put out a roadmap July 30th. This thing came about August 2020. So it's a little over a year old at this point. And you can always read more about what they did and why and who their market makers are and other fun stuff like that. But ultimately, Serum holders benefit when projects add liquidity and volume to Serum DEX as DEX fees go towards buy and burn. So just like BNB for the most part, kind of like the FTX FTT token for the most part, nothing super new. And it looks like they have DEX pools, AMMs, classic ETH stuff that UniSushi, Bancor has, that sort of thing. Now, I say this all allegedly because as an American, as someone who lives in the United States, I unfortunately doesn't look like I can access any of this information. So as a DEX, it just fails on its head quickly. Now I know why they're doing this, but you can't quite call it decentralized if it has regulatory risk or you're afraid of something. I don't know. You know, I can only allege as to why. There are reasons I can't access this, but as an analyst, you know, the information on their roadmap and their token summary can only really take me so far. So as an American, unless you're using a VPN, which I wouldn't advocate for or condone, you're not going to be able to access this apparently. And they have something called Mega Serum, and you know, when it gets complicated like this reminds me of IOTA. When it gets just layers and layers of complexity and lockups and partners and blah, 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 this just turns me off immediately. That's not to say this token and project won't be supremely successful in the coming months. My brain just shuts off. Boop. Just immediately turns off, because now I have to pay attention to when are these people selling? When is it locked up? How much of the coin is available at X time? How is that going to affect price? What is the total circulating supply? How is that going to affect price? That may or may not have an effect on how TA functions in the near term, short term, long term. So keep all of that in mind. If there's some massive unlock, you know, hash bar or hashgraph, forget the name of it, H bar, whatever it is, that's a great example of a token that, what do you pay attention to? The massive monthly lockups or the TA, which looked semi-reasonable? I don't know what it looks like now. I haven't looked at it in a long time, but that's an example that comes to mind. The same thing with ICP. Project is giant steaming pile of trash and they have massive unlocks, but number go up. So what does it matter, right? So that's just something to pay attention to. If you're looking at the fundamental side of things, they did release a roadmap in July, and you can go through it and see everything that they're doing. But basically, as long as they copy Ethereum dexes, they'll do fine. As long as they innovate minimally, they'll do fine. As long as they continue to add stuff and things, they'll do fine. We're not in a highly specific stage of DeFi just yet. We're still figuring things out, especially for the DEX side of things. If they go multi-chain, great. They're talking about cross-chain bridges, cool. They will benefit greatly from that, certainly. If we look at the Solana, the tokens on Solana, Serum is down here at 990. They have a market cap of around 440, 450 million. So not that big of a coin relative to other stuff. Radium is also an exchange on Solana, and Solana has quite a few dexes, which I didn't even know that it has this much stuff already. But you can go to solana.com and look at the ecosystem, but there's a ton of stuff here, most of which you've probably never heard unless you're deep into the Solana ecosystem. But Serum pops up here on the DEX tab, and my guess is Radium is defined as an exchange? I'm not quite sure, but I couldn't find Radium on this list. In any case, they have a ton of stuff on Solana. So they're building. If we look at TVL for Serum, sits at around 486, so slightly higher than the market cap of the coin itself, which is probably pretty bullish for the token. On the fundamental side of things, they also have other stuff attached to Serum, this perp swap thing, which, you know, again, I can't access, so cool. But that is connected to Serum with bona fide again, I don't know what any of this stuff is. I'm just looking at it like probably most of you are for the first time. But if you're looking to get into Serum as a non-US citizen in some way, this is something you have to go through and look at, because there's a lot of stuff coming. Just, I mean, look at this, the classic who's who of Three Arrows Capital, CMS, Sino, all the people you know and love, vulture and venture capitalists, in the crypto space. If we look at the token stats for Serum, transaction counts are kind of all over the place, relatively meaningless, probably not that much data yet to really glean what's going on here. Stuff's kind of all over the place. Transaction counts are rising, so I guess you could say that's fairly bullish. NVT is falling, so I guess you could say that's fairly bullish. Active addresses flat, no real changes there, around 300, 350. So not a ton of active addresses. Early days, certainly. MVRV, a metric of market cap versus on-chain activity, for most coins this tops out at 2, and it looks like the previous all-time high this topped out at 2. So currently it's 1.5, which means the market cap is 1.5 times on-chain activity. So this is definitely something to watch. If price makes higher highs or continues to make higher highs, what does MVRV look like? Will it top out at 2? Will on-chain activity actually pick up? Because right now it's pretty minimal in general. And that's not unique to Serum. Currently, a lot of chains, including BTC and ETH, on-chain activity is kind of flat or declining. So definitely look to on-chain activity first if price moves up, because if price moves up and on-chain activity does not, then that is a bit of a bearish divergence. Moving on to technicals, the easiest thing you can do for all these charts, take the all-time high, take the local low, fib it out high to low, any 50%, which isn't a fib, but it's a level that price often returns to. So we're already past that at this point. Next stop is all-time high retest. And after that, it's between 17 and 21, most likely. Now this thing is just a very aggressive upward trend currently. So for me, I always prefer some sort of consolidation, much like there was post January to March rise. There was this inverted head and shoulders that broke up. So ideally, you see some sort of bullish reconsolidation here at some level, either at all-time high or between the 50% and all-time high, to tell you, yeah, this thing has more legs and isn't just going to bear div to 20 and then collapse to 7. That's what this is currently at risk of. Yes, you can ride this in the low time frames in the near term and probably do quite well, but you have to pay attention to it probably hour by hour, because at some point this thing's going to topple over and there goes all of your unrealized gains. I mean, look at AVAX, look at Joe, look at all of the flavor of the week, flavor of the month stuff that's exploding in price. A lot of that topples very, very quickly. So that's just something to keep in mind. Looking at EMAs, 5200 cross is currently bullish. We're above all of the volume we need to be above here. And the next volume resistance is around 10. Tons of volume coming in at this high on FTX, even though there is a bit of a bearish divergence here on RSI with a higher high in price and a lower high in RSI. And you can see previously, again, January to March, how this RSI looked. It just pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And we never quite really got a bear div at the top, but it did eventually max out. So this is just a lesson that RSI can cruise at overbought, quote unquote, for an extended period of time. That isn't going to be the end all be all usually for any trend. So this thing can just stay up here around 70 to 80 for quite some time. But I would be cautious with this bear div here. It's also at the R5 monthly pivot, so it probably just needs some time to calm down a little bit. Daily cloud looks excellent. It's about to twist bullish on the cloud here. Edge to edge is definitely complete. TK lines are moving up with price. So all this is setting the table for a strong bullish continuation, much like it did in late January, early February this year. The difference being this is already up like 4x from the bottom. So it's like, okay, is this really going to go another 2x from here? Is it going to pull back or consolidate? You could always enter slowly at these levels and hope for a pullback to enter more. And if it keeps going, at the very least, you're in, because you're convicted that you have conviction that this is going to go higher. On the daily, it doesn't really look at risk of bearish reversal anytime soon. This looks fine. The worst thing you could probably see is just sort of cruising at the cloud level and then falling through the cloud in late September. But overall, this looks excellent for bullish continuation eventually. And on the 12-hour, you had your entry at 440 and still looks fine. Cloud is still moving up. TK line's still moving up. Trend-wise, looks really good there. Against BTC, again, you have a bear div on RSI, bear div on volume on Binance, bullish 5200 crossed, R5 monthly pivot. So all this stuff to me just says it probably needs to cool down. The better buy is probably towards the 200-day moving average. This thing will probably move up slowly with price here. Some volume levels to watch as well based on VPVR. But ultimately, trend looks fine for bullish continuation. Just looks rather overbought here. And the same thing with Serum. ETH has never had a bullish 5200 cross since August 2020, but it will probably have a bullish cross here over the next couple of weeks. So it very well may outperform ETH into Q4 throughout Q4. So Serum, Solana DEX, they're doing stuff and things. They're innovating, they're developing. It's new, it's fresh, it's hot, it's flavor of the week type stuff. If you're an American, good luck accessing it. If you're in some other country that's restricted, good luck accessing it. Is that really DeFi? I don't know. Is that decentralized? I don't know. I understand why they're doing it, but it goes against the grain of what DeFi is and should be, in my humble opinion. On-chain activities muted and flat, so I'd look for a bump up in that with a bump up in price. And technicals, trend-wise, against USD, BTC, and ETH all look good for bullish continuation. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio I trade for Techme Capital on Enzyme.finance, a non-custodial portfolio management solution where you can send ETH or USDC or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything including AUM, performance, allocations, all of the fun yield plays I'm making on Yearn, Comp, and Aave, all of the various tokens I'm in here in the DeFi portfolio. In the trades tab, you can see when I'm doing all the trades, the amount, where, sometimes through 0x, sometimes through Paraswap. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.